Hello, this is Lili Mesterházy and welcome to Verzió, the International Human Rights Film Festival, documentary film festival here in Budapest. And this is a special year. This is our 20th edition. And I have a special guest here today from Norway, Margreth Olin. Welcome.
Thank you.
Margreth is the creator of a breathtakingly beautiful film called Songs of Earth. And she takes us to a place called Odedalen, which is a river valley in Norway. And we literally follow the footsteps of your 85 or 86-year-old father. And we go on a hike with him. And we follow him around the mountains surrounding this river valley. And but this is not only a hike. This is, at least to me, it was a spiritual experience, and also we get a love story. It's a very complex and beautiful film, and I'm very happy to have the opportunity to talk to you today. So, first of all, just tell me how the idea was born, the birth, the background of the film, the birth of the idea for this film. How did it happen?
Yes. When I was a child, I was around 6 years old. That was the first time my father brought me to the glacier. Odedalen, where he is born and where he grew up, is one of the most beautiful valleys in Norway. And this valley is surrounded by the biggest inland glacier in Europe. So he brought me to the glacier and we sat down by the front of the glacier. And then the wind came through the valley. And when the valley hit the surface of the ice and went into the crevasses, the sound of the wind turned into tones and it sounded like music. So I asked my father, is there an orchestra playing down there in the depths? And he answered, can you hear them too? And since then, I think that having parents that have brought me out in this magnificent nature that surrounds us and shared the secrets and wonders of nature, I have been thinking, is it possible to collect the scenery, like with images? Is it possible to collect the sounds of the wind turning into tones, collect the sounds of the glaciers, and make a film? And it is, because you know the title of the film in English is Songs of Earth, and what we have been doing is collecting my father's surroundings, and he has been spending so much of his life outdoors, and I think that going outside is really to go in. So when you say that seeing the film is to be taken on a spiritual and existential journey, that is what I hoped for the audience. So thank you for saying that.
No, thank you for the film. I also, obviously, I try to get to know you as much as I could, and I watched a TED talk you gave around a year ago, if I'm not mistaken, and there you relate a story, a very personal story. I don't know if you're ready to share it with us, which seemed to me that was the direct, like it directly resulted in this film, in the way it was finally made. Could you tell us the story?
Yes. When I started this journey with my father, it was during the pandemic, during COVID. But 5 years before that, my partner, I was 45 and he was 47, and he suffered a massive stroke. And that was unexpected, you know. And so he went into coma and he had surgery 4 times. And the first weeks and months, the doctors tried to prepare me for what they believed could be a sudden death. But he was young and strong, my partner, so he survived, like against all odds. But what happened was that who we were and what we had changed. And it was very hard for us, or me, to accept that. So when difficult things happen in my life, I turned to my parents, and I did. And my father, his answers to most things in life is, let's go for a walk. But then he said, but maybe we should walk for 1 year this time, because it was a big thing that has happened, turning around all my life. But then I said, but how can that happen? How can we walk for 1 year? But then the pandemic came and closed down our country and most countries, and suddenly this time opens, and we did. And then I asked my father if I could bring my crew and make a film about this journey, us being outside more or less for a year. And you know, when I started on following in my father's footsteps and looking at his back, I was so filled with fear, because that was what happened when Roy got a stroke and we lived in constant alert for so long, is that you think that the worst thing can happen at any moment. Like, I couldn't relax and I couldn't sleep, and I even had panic attacks. I have never had that in my life. So when we started the walk, the only thing that I could think of was that I'm so soon going to lose my parents, and that I couldn't stand thinking about that. But we started to walk in spring, and then when you walk in rough terrain and high up in the mountains, you need to be present here and now. You need to consider where to put your foot, and every step you take is important. So in a way, my past left me, and my future too. The future that was planned and could not be the one way that it was planned, and the fear that I had for what was going to happen, that disappeared. But also the images that I carried with me from the hospital and what we had been through. And it was replaced by light, by beauty, and present here and now, because I really had to be in myself and in my body. And then something happened, and that was the total like relief that I could breathe again, and that I, in a way, in my talk, I talk about transcending above thought, because when you are having a trauma in your life, you kind of get stuck in your emotions and your thought. But it was like suddenly I felt really deep connected, not only to my father and my parents, but and the ancestors and the story of the valley, but most of all, deep connected to nature and the energy that is there for all of us as a gift if we spend more time outdoors. So we, the fear after a while was replaced by acceptance of the terms of life, and then thankful or gratefulness. And walking through the 4 seasons, the film is structured by the seasons. That was the most beautiful thing, because in spring you have all life starting. And then in summer you have the abundance. Every insects, all the sounds, like the rivers are overflowing. And then in autumn you have all the sudden shifts, like my adult life. And you need to accept that in a way, that this is how it is. And then when winter came, and I thought about winter as old age, as my father with his calm and ease. But then you have only 4 colors left, and that is black and white and blue and gray. It's like a graphic landscape. And then when the leaves are off the trees and you see nature or the surroundings in a new way, sort of. But what you could see was the traces that our forefathers have, the path they have, that we have been following the whole year. you can see them almost like blood vessels in the landscape. And then I suddenly understood that my father, with all his hikings, he has left his mark behind as well. That we are nature and nature is us. And one day all of us will go back to Earth. And it's not frightening, it's kind of beautiful. But that he will stay behind. That the power and the energy that you feel when you are out in nature, it's not only nature, and that is not only, it's more than nature, to say that way. It is also all the traces of all the people that have been before us. So I was coming from fear, it grew into acceptance, and it ended up in a gratefulness. And I think more people than me experience this if they have a crisis in their life that brings them out. We think that, and that can be, of course, very crucial and important to go into therapy or to do other things that brings you back to yourself. But nature really provides us meaning and relationships, companionships, and good health, both mentally and physically.
You also make this parallel visually in those images of your father's skin or veins in very from close-ups, and then you see the bird's eye view of the terrain, and it's really the message gets through like beautifully. So yes, I remember that. I also remember your father actually saying those words, like, we have to accept what's coming, that's the course of life, that's and your mother kind of juxtaposes that. And I was thinking about their love story and this beautiful story of these two people who have loved each other for a lifetime. And I wondered, what was it like for you as their daughter to witness that, to capture that on camera, to show it to many people around the world? Like, what was this very intimate and personal aspect of the film? What was it like for you?
I have been thinking for years that I want to make a film about nature. We live in a time where people are very concerned about climate and nature crisis. And I also knew that my unique access to make a film about this is to make a love letter to nature, because that is what's that's the essence of this family that I am a part of, the love for nature. But there is a parallel story to that, and that is the love between my parents. So at first I was thinking that I'm going to walk in my father's footsteps, because he's the one hiking these wild mountains, and my mother is not doing that. She spends also a lot of time outdoors, but not in the same way. But then as we started, I suddenly understand that if nature is the first love of my father, my mother is his greatest love. So I could not possibly make a film about my father without also including my mother and the relationship between them. And for me, experience this love between my parents, that is, for me at least, very unique. And it has always been like this since my whole life, you know. I have never experienced them saying something negative to each other, or coming to me or my sister speaking negatively about the other. They have this grace and love. And I have been thinking about like their humbleness, not only towards one another, but to everyone in the family and to the world in a bigger sense, that it has to do with their connection to nature. Like an understanding of our place, that we are quite small in a bigger picture. that they embrace the powerful. They are a part of it, the powerful that is nature. And of course, the relationship they have to their parents as well. And in the film, quite early in the film, they sing a local song. My father say the words, but my mother is singing. And then at one point, there is some lines that has to do when you grow up and you have to leave your homeland or your hometown. And then my mother stops singing and she starts crying. And then she says it's hard to say those words because it all has to do with your parents. And then I say, yes, that's the thing, that I feel so close to you. I still call this my home. And I can't stand the thought of losing you. And then my father says, when that day comes, of course you will be allowed to grieve, but you should remember the good times that we shared and your life will be easier. So my parents, they are alike in many ways, but they're also, as everyone, different, you know. They have accepted that they have their personality, but they have built an arc over what they share that contains both of them. My mother is quite humoristic and sharp, like in a beautiful way. So they have had all this humor between them, and that is also part of the film.
Yeah, there is a very sweet banter between them, and you capture that and you show some of it.
Yes, and so of course I'm very grateful for them to letting me record those things. But yeah, you know, I'm their daughter and we are very close and they trusted me. so and of course they saw the rough cut of the film and I asked if it is okay, and they say yes it is. So, and they saw the film a couple of times before it was finally completed, and they loved the film.
They gave their blessing.
Yes, yes,
for the final cut. It's a real, I mean, I keep telling breathtaking, because it is, that the view, the scenery, the shots are unique. I think I've never seen such beautiful nature or the Dal, and I had never heard of this place before, but now I just want to go to see it for myself. Could you comment on the technicalities, the challenges you faced? You must have had a huge crew, I imagine, or the sounds you record, the images, not to mention the images. How was production?
Yes, I would love to talk about that. And if we start with the cinematography of the film, altogether it is 9 photographers. But my DOP, director of photography, is a man called Lars Erlend Oimo, and he's quite young. He's in his 30s, and he hadn't been filming nature before. And for me, that was crucial. Lars is very, very talented, and I have seen that from his previous work. But I wanted us to explore and find a language together, like finding a new language, because I've been out in these surroundings. This is my home place, and I've carried these images within me all my life, and the sounds as well, of course. But transferring that onto film, I wanted someone that was new to the area, that was new to nature, and that wanted to explore it, almost like a child, not in a naive way, of course, but be taken by the beauty. And we thought of it like we are not going to create the images, we are collecting, because it's already made, it's out there. But then you have to use your senses and you have to stay there for a long time, and you have to take it in. So not only to make beautiful photographies like postcards, but really feel the energy and the power in the nature.
The movement.
Yes, and the movement. And then I worked with 2 different drone photographers, but especially there was one local in the valley, but also another that was with us on every hiking that we did. And we talked about how to use the drone in a new way. Often when you see drone photography, it can be fast, it's filmed in more masculine way, that it's like the explorer's adventurous type of images. But for me, it was more that I wanted to have a bird eye hanging over or beside, but often over my father, and just look at him while he was walking. And as there is a witness to his hiking, and that could be a bird. But what also happened then is that you have the scale of it, that man, now in my father, how small he is in these powerful surroundings. And you know, when you walk in a path in the mountain, you have to walk higher and higher, and then you can stop and you can see this powerful panoramic view. But as you walk, you are really looking to where you put your foot, and then be able to share it with my father, that he could see that we were tracking him as he walked and how the scenery around him changed. That was a beautiful thing. And then we had a diver that is also a photographer for the underwater shots, and we did some helicopter shots where we went on top of the mountains and really went over the plateau of the glacier where it's only ice, and we can't send the drones in there, so that we had to do by helicopter. And then I had 3 wildlife photographers that did the game and birds, and 1 nature photographer that did some of the macro shots, but we did a lot of them as well, Lars and me, filming insects and with macro lenses down in the lake by the glacier, and seeing plants and flowers that are like underneath the surface of the water. And that was so beautiful to like explore all of this. And then of course we went into the blue ice caves inside the glacier midst winter, because it has to be really cold for a long time so it doesn't calf and you can be stuck in there. It can be your ice cathedral grave, you know. So, and being inside those blue ice caves, there was 1 cave we had to crawl to get in, and to stand up, and the ice was transparent, that you could see many meters. It was like 3D, many meters into the ice, and you could see gas and bubbles and being frozen in time thousands of years ago, and it looked like planets and galaxies. And that was really the most beautiful experience in my life. I never thought before starting to make that film that I would dare to crawl under a glacier. But when we first did, it was like, okay, so we stayed there for hours filming that. And when it comes to the sound, we had Andreas, who did the sound recordings in the field, and then sound designer Tormod Ringnes, and my composer Rebecca Cario. And Andreas collected all these sounds, and we lowered microphones into the depths of the glacier to picking up this wind when it turned into music. To the dripping of water underneath the ice that turns into rhythm when you listen to it for a long time.
It's like a clock ticking. I was thinking, like, did you record the clock? Like, this is like a little bit heavy-handed to show us the clock ticking, and then I realized, no, it's the water, actually.
It is.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, very fascinating. And 2 times in the film, you can really hear a clock ticking. And it's not like creative sound design. It is from underneath the glacier. And standing on top of the glacier, and you see all the water that is coming out of the glacier, and you feel that the clock is ticking, and you really can hear it. That was, yeah, you know, it makes an impact. Okay, timing's running out, like nature as we know it also in this area, it's really changing. So, and then we worked with hydrophones underneath the surface of the water, picking up sounds that it is a kind of stillness, but there is also a pulse, you know. So then we got like, wow, you're getting the pulse of the earth. it was very, very fascinating. And then Tormod Ringnes, the sound designer, worked with this because, you know, all the drone shots in the film, for example, they are not followed by sound when we shoot it. So we had to find the equal sound to every image. But what we did also was that Rebecca, my composer, she invited the best soloists on different string instruments and flutes to listen to the sound recordings, the songs of the earth. And they turned it into music, working intuitively. Which instrument is the best to do that wind or this wind, or what we capture with the hydrophones. And then after listening to that, she wrote the score, the full score, and we went to Air Studio in London, and it's performed by London Contemporary Orchestra. So all this journey from being a child, listening and imagining there is an orchestra playing down there in the depths, until the day the London Contemporary Orchestra play the full score. that has been quite a journey, and a beautiful one, to see the possibilities that we have to, but everything in deep respect for nature itself, because what I want to do is to give a voice to nature, or even a double voice in every choice that we make for the politics in the years to follow. Nature has to have a double vote.
You are an accomplished filmmaker in Norway. You have made not only documentaries, but also feature films. One of them was the official entry of Norway to the Academy Awards back in 2009. If you look back at the many, many films you've made, what place does Songs of Earth occupy in your heart?
I think together with my first film, I think Songs of Earth will be the dearest film to me. Like, my first film was a portrait of my uncle. The film is called My Uncle, my mother's youngest brother. He had Down syndrome. And from I was a child, I knew that I one day wanted to tell his story, because if people saw him with the eyes that we do in our family, they would look differently. Strangers would look at him differently. So that was a story that I really needed to tell, like all the years that I grew up. But when it comes to Songs of Earth, I feel that that is the best work that I have done. I do. And also because the more experienced you get as a filmmaker, the more you realize how to work to get all your crew to do their best. That it is, making film is maybe the most, the art form that you have to work together with other artists. It's a collaboration, and bringing their voices in, not being afraid that you are losing your own voice, not at all. Because as a director and as the filmmaker that carries the vision for a film throughout your life, that vision has to be strong all the way until it meets the audience. But how can you make your whole crew like bringing in their voices, so it's a choir of voices that has collected and portraying nature in this area. And I feel that we have succeeded in that in this film. That I think that the cinematography and the sounds collected by Andreas, the work done by my sound designer and my composer, but also the editing of the film. The editing of the film is beautifully done. It is really done with the respect to the material in itself, waiting out that there is a power in the images that if we are allowed to stay with them as an audience, it will come over to us. So the pace and the rhythm of this film is very crucial for how the audience experience it.
You mentioned the audience. A couple of days ago in your Insta, you posted very merrily, of course, that over 90,000 people have watched your film in Norway, and thus making Songs of Earth the third most successful Norwegian documentary in the last 20 years. And yes, especially for a documentary, this is a huge number. And what do you think? There was also Tom Powers, the Toronto documentary programmer, who posted it on his account, or Toronto Film Festival's account, saying, well, I have 4 favorites this year, and one of them was Songs of Earth. So it must make you immensely happy and proud. But what do you think? What touches people in this film?
I think that me and my editor, we discussed a lot the opportunity this material gives to for the audience, or for us when making the film, that we could give the audience the opportunity to meet themselves while you sit in the dark in the cinema. When I say that going outside is really to go in, that is not just like a poetic saying, but it's true. Because when you are out and you use all your senses and you take this, we say go out in nature, but really we go into nature. Everything in nature is alive. And we wanted you to have that feeling, to be surrounded of this aliveness. And hopefully that you want to spend more time outdoors, that you want to seek beautiful and deep nature experiences. Because what happens when you do that is that you reconnect with nature, but most of all, you reconnect with yourself. And I think that, one of the biggest challenges in our times is how to take care of nature. And to do that, we have to reconnect to ourselves, because we have to feel that this is not something we do because it's something we should, and everyone is talking about it, and it's a theory that we should do it. But no, this has to do with our life. It's how we can stay on Earth or not, to experience this beauty and life. And then I think for some people, many people go to see this film twice or even 3 times. And some reports saying that it's like being at a spa, But I think that you feel relaxed. Your breathing becomes slower. You're taken by the light, by the beauty. But there is also time that you can reflect on your own life, your relationship to your parents, maybe children. What is most important in life? How do you want to live your life? Why are we so stressed these days? What is all this craziness going on in the world? So I think that is the secret of how people experience the film is that they are given room to meet themselves in the dark in the cinema.
In the end credit, you, amongst others, you give special thanks to Liv Olman, and you seem to have a special connection, a special relationship to her. Could you just say a few words about that?
Yes. This week I was in New York. We have special screenings now because the film is the Norwegian entry for the Oscars for Best International Film. And Liv was with me and had a talk in New York. And when the film was released in Norway, we also had a talk in Trondheim, that is her home city in the midst of Norway, and talked about family and relationships and our hometowns. I have known Liv for some years, and she was the first that me and Misha, my editor, brought into the editing room at rough cut stage to see the film, because it's crucial who you pick to do that. For me, it needs to be a person that I believe can understand the vision of the film, but we're not there yet. So it also needs to be a person that are honest with us and say that, okay, you are heading there, but this is maybe the problems that you need to solve. And Liv is that kind of type. She's so an experienced storyteller, but she expresses when she likes something, and she's very clear when she sees opportunities in the material. So that was a good call. And then we talked, she loved what she saw, and we talked about it, and then she came on board as an executive producer for the film.
Just one last question, because one of the most, I mean, yes, it's a spiritual journey, and I have not thought about this, but it might be like a spa experience, but it also at moments gave me some anxiety, because one of those heart-wrenching moments when you have the footage of the melting icebergs falling into the water. And I just wanted to ask you personally, are you optimistic about the future? What are your thoughts?
I am always optimistic. I think that the planet Earth itself will manage. How it will be for us is more an open question. Like, we are born with free will. We decide how our communities should be, how the society should be, the public, how it should be. And there are a lot of things going on in the world today that it's quite shocking that we are not more conscious, that we repeat, that the war going on in the Middle East, for example, the invasion in Ukraine. It's very shocking that these things are still going on. So it's obvious that we have to, as humanity, needs to suffer more before we reach another insight or consciousness.
Enlightenment, yes.
Yes, enlightenment. Yeah. And that's a pity. It will not happen in my lifetime, you know. But but one of the things that we could do and learn from is nature. And we need to understand that we are not too powerful. People in power needs to understand that they are not too powerful. They are set there to serve people, not themselves. And we are set here to serve that all other life forms. Like, it's like people in power treat people in general in a way that people in general treat other life forms, you know. So, but I am, of course, optimistic, because for every new generation, there is more enlightenment in the world.
Thank you. On this note, I think we can probably finish our conversation. Thank you again, Margreth Olin, for talking to us and for the film, Songs of Earth. Thank you for creating this 90 minutes. And I really recommend it to Verzió and the viewers of Verzió in Budapest and all around the world to watch it. It's a unique experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and good luck with the festival.